call the July school board meeting to order. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
1.2 opening setting of the agenda.
There were some changes. We took out 3.2 and just moved everything up. I think that is the majority.
Okay. So take a motion to approve the agenda for the meeting. So, a second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, 1.3, audience participation. Is there any audience participation on agenda items this evening?
Oh, this is not on the agenda,
Okay.
but I do have audience participation. I guess I'm a concerned parent. Do you want to do this now or when you get to it down here at 5:1?
We're going to do it at 5:1.
Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to be sure.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
First timer.
You're fine. You're fine. Any other audience participation? Yes, sir.
I don't know when we do this, but I'm Steve Marshman. I'm on the agenda for today.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to apply and hopefully get voted yes. So I've always admired the Plymouth area. Played against Plymouth when I taught at Lakeview, so it'd be nice to have multiple mascots. I've never seen that before. But I'm very excited about working here.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. On to the consent agenda. As long as there's nothing to pull out, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Thank you. Can you second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to 3.1, consider appointment of PHS Athletic Director. This is for name order.
Yeah, Plymouth High School is excited to recommend Joshua Troyer for board approval. Throughout an extensive search and interview process conducted by a committee of head coaches, athletic department staff, and administration, Joshua clearly stood out as the top choice to lead Plymouth High School's athletic department. Joshua brings a wealth of knowledge and skills that will make him an amazing asset to the PHS family and Plymouth community. The committee was impressed with his enthusiasm, attention to detail, and passion for sports and leadership. His educational base and leadership experience also stood out to the committee. Joshua has an MBA in sports management and a license in school administration. Considering his skill set and passion, he will undoubtedly make an incredible impact on our student athletes, coaches, and community. He wanted to be here tonight, but he is adopting a baby, and he's in Texas with his wife. So they're going to be making their way back here shortly. But I would like to recommend the approval of Joshua Troyer as the athletic director for PCSC.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the appointment of the PHS Athletic Director.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, 3.2, consider appointment of Director of Safety and Security.
Yeah, in the consent agenda, you approved Ted Brown's transfer to Director of Transportation. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the meeting. But with the movement of Ted to the Director of Transportation, it was important to focus on the position of Director of Safety and Security. A committee of Reed Galt, Ted Fisher, Jill, and I interviewed candidates and unanimously chose Ward Byers for the position. Ward comes to us having most recently served as the Director of Marshall County Community Corrections. He is a 1985 graduate of Plymouth, a 92 graduate of the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, and a graduate also of leadership at Marshall County. He served as the president of the Boys and Girls Club, helped to create the Marshall County app, and helped all the schools in Marshall County secure the School Guard app. His list of credentials extends much beyond this. We look forward to working with Ward in his new role. Therefore, I recommend the approval of Ward hires as Director of Safety and Security at PCSC.
Sorry, move. Thank you. Take a second. Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Ward.
Thank you.
Did you want to
Do you
say
have
anything?
anything?
Just appreciate the opportunity to serve, and I look forward to working with all of you in the corporation community. And Ted, again, Ted and I used to work together many years ago, and so that would be nice to come back and shift gears and work into the safety and security of the campus. So again, thank you.
Thanks, Ward. All right. 3.2, consider transportation department walking boundaries and guidelines.
So, Ted Brown was part of the committee that looked at the redistricting of elementaries. At the time, Ted was Director of Safety, now Transportation Director. He's going to present safe walking routes for each of the 7 schools tonight, along with a set of rules for those who walk.
Hello. Thank you. So we put together a committee and principals and us here at admin, and then other transportation personnel to look at all of our boundaries around the schools to make sure that we were doing things what we feel is the right way. And you were presented with the elementaries earlier for the redistricting, and then but we never looked at the high school, the junior high, and Riverside. So what we have up here on the map right now is the high school. Can you make? I guess if you blow it up, it'll probably take it out of the screen. So the orange is the existing walking boundary, and what we wanted to do was, because these were drawn up, no one's actually sure how long ago, but it was a long time, like back when I was probably in high school. So that was 30 years ago. We now have a bunch of new housing developments around that we needed to add in. So the blue is putting those in by Riverside, the park, and the other one would be the trailer park behind Little Caesars. So we felt that high school students were responsible enough to cross Michigan Street. At the beginning of the year, we're going to reevaluate all of our crossing guard areas. We had a meeting with the chief of police and Sean, attorney, to look at each one and then bring up the new ones that were concerns for elementaries, and we're going to try to move some people around, working with the city to make sure that that gets done. But the Baker Street, it will still be there at the end of the school year to help if there are any high school kids. I don't think the high school kids will walk from there, but I'm not sure. The second one is Lincoln Junior High. Again, we're adding areas that were not really populated at the time. These were drawn up, and the main concern there would be crossing Lincoln Highway. So we are going to look at, after the city redoes Gibson Street where it ties into Lincoln Highway. I got to see some drawings of that today in another meeting, and once we get that, we will look at making that intersection as safe as possible also for crossing. And then the third one is Riverside. And again, we're adding the apartments that are right next to Riverside. They were not in a walking boundary. And then eventually we will probably have to redo this, possibly with the other new housing development as it gets finished. So this one will probably change again, possibly for next year, depending on when they actually make those houses open for habitation. So those are the three main changes. I don't know if you have the elementary schools, or is this just the...
They're on.
Okay, they're on there. Yeah. So if you want to see any of the other ones, Jefferson. So nothing, well, it did change because we took out nobody from the west side of Michigan Street, no elementary school age kids will be crossing there. So that changed the walking zone there. But it's still within the 1 mile. We try to stay within approximately 1 mile of our school property to the edge of the residence property to make our established walk zones. I'll talk about that in a second. Menominee is a little bit smaller right now because Oak Hill, we don't have any crossing areas at that, either at Elm, or we don't want any kids walking on Nutmeg. So we will have to look at if we can get some way to get those kids across safely, and how many kids actually live on the north side of Oak Hill Avenue. WDA is one that we have had a little bit of concern with. There's a railroad track on 5th Street. We are working with the police department to get someone there. We may move the crossing guard from Liberty and Pennsylvania Street because we don't think she's going to be crossing hardly any kids now that we redid Webster going the other direction. So that is one thing. At the beginning of the year, we're going to have each of them tell us how many kids they actually cross, and then we will reevaluate where we need to put people. But we definitely want somebody at 5th Street and the railroad tracks to help those kids, because we don't really like the way 3rd Street going underneath the tracks right now. And then the last one is Webster, and this is actually, so I was a Webster kid way back in the day, and they added my old neighborhood back into it. So I used to have to walk to school, and I made it. So they do have to cross Michigan Street, but we do have a crossing guard there for them. And so again, we're looking at all the areas that are a possibility of danger, I guess, and then we will reevaluate to make sure that we are doing what's safe, to make sure we get our kids there. We're working also with the city to put in new sidewalks in a lot of areas to help this. So those are our new proposed walking boundaries. Any questions?
Did you have some criteria for?
So then we also have what we want to put on our transportation website, the way we go, how we get to the walking zones. And so if you want to read those, and I don't really want to have to read each one of them, but I would. Essentially, we would just make sure that the parents are checking which way their kids are walking, and if they do have safety concerns, let us know, and we'll work with the city or however we have to do to help alleviate those problems. So those are the two things we'd like to change.
And I would recommend the approval of the safe walking zones as Ted has presented them.
Take a motion. So moved. Thank you, Robin. Second. Second. Thank you. Any questions for Ted or discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. 3.4, consider St. Michael's School transportation agreement.
As a part of the redistricting, we needed to make some changes with St. Michael's students, how they were transported. So St. Michael's students will now be dropped off at the high school in the morning and the afternoon, and the students will be supervised by an employee of St. Michael's. The students will be shuttled from the high school to St. Michael's in the morning at approximately 7:50, and they will return from St. Michael's to the high school at approximately 2:45. And then from there start the journey home. I would like to thank Jeff Quillen for creating this agreement, and I recommend the approval of the agreement between St. Michael's and PCSC.
Is a motion to approve the agreement?
So moved.
Thank you. Any second? Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. 3.5, Ms. Krasik.
Yeah.
This is the food bids.
Yeah, this is just business as usual, aside from one new food bid. So Gordon Food Service is our broadline distributor. We'd like to renew with them along with DFA Shables Dairy for our milk. The new bid you see on there is Kiaga Produce, with the addition of our fresh fruit and vegetable snack program with K through 4 kids, I thought it was important to get a more robust produce program. While Gordon's Food Service does provide some produce, Piazza Produce focuses, they're out of Indianapolis. They focus on local produce, and they do have a more robust variety so that we can supply that. So I would ask you to approve these bids.
Take a motion to approve the bid. Thank you. Second?
Okay.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions for Amy? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then you're up for double header. 3.6, consider lunch account balances.
So this is kind of just an informational piece. Pretty much all school districts are going through this right now. So from previous school year, 22-23, our total negative lunch balance was $10,709.47. So as many as you know, this past school year was the first year that COVID waivers were revoked and the first time in 2 years that families went back to paid lunches. It was another added burden after COVID. While most families were aware of the change back to normal, others weren't and did not complete the updated free and reduced application. For our meal charge policy, students with a negative balance in their account are granted a full reimbursable meal. However, they can't purchase any extra items. We do still have to track that sale of meals to the state. So as they get a breakfast or a lunch, they dip further and further into the hole. So our lunch clerks, secretaries, and administration did all they could to contact families throughout the school year to resolve these debts. Phone calls, emails, sending letters home, additional requests for an application. So the total number of students with a negative balance at the end of the school year was only 128 kids. So that's less than 1% of our total population. Some of these students are only $20 in the hole. So with this in mind, our plan to collect is to give the families one last-ditch effort to pay off this debt directly with us, as opposed to going to a collections agency or small claims court. We'll notify the families of their negative balance and give them the opportunity to reconcile that account. If they cannot or do not respond, then we will have to go to the second route. So it's just some information for you, how we plan to move forward.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah.
Okay, 3.7, consider revisions to the administrative conditions and benefits.
Yeah, Beth was ill today, and so she is not able to be here, so I'm going to take this one. Revisions have been made to the administrative conditions and benefits document. The changes include updates to the job titles for different jobs and salary ranges, which are highlighted in red. I recommend the approval of the administrative conditions and benefits as presented.
Take a motion to approve. Thank you. Second. Thank you, Roman. Any questions or discussion? All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 3.8, consider selection of newspaper for legal advertising.
Yes, in the past, PCSC has published legal advertisements in the Plymouth Pilot. We would like to continue that relationship with the Pilot, therefore I recommend the approval of the selection of Plymouth Pilot for our legal advertisements.
So moved. Thanks, Ellen. Second. Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, 3.9, consider Telamon Energy agreements for filming solar arrays.
Telamon, the group who helped us put our two solar fields in place, would like to use drones to take videos of the sites where the solar fields are at, using this for video advertisement. They have presented me with two agreements. One is a content license agreement, and the other is a filming release agreement. Jeff has gotten a chance to take a look at those, and he feels that they are good. And I recommend the approval of the agreement between Telamon and PCSC for Telamon to film those solar fields.
Good PR, I say.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve also.
So
Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. 3.10, new and revised policies and guidelines, first reading.
Now, Laura Pryor, Robin, and I met with Ryan Snowdy from Neola recently to work through the latest edition of policies you see in the information you were given. And I recommend the approval of the first reading of those new policies as presented.
We do vote on first reading?
We do not have to.
We don't
That
have
is
to,
right.
right? Yeah.
Very good, thank you.
All right. 3.11, consider equitable education solutions interim business manager and budget completion agreement.
Yeah, in the interim of searching for a new business manager, we have asked our partners from EES to help bridge the gap with services from Brandon Penrod. Brandon was a former superintendent and also a business manager, and his wife was a superintendent. So we have been working with him, and he's done an excellent job. He's going to help us especially through the budget season, which is very important. I recommend the approval of the contract with EES in the interim of not having a business manager in place.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve the agreement with EES. Thank you, Adam. Second? Second. Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 4.1, monthly remarks.
Yeah, we are excited to have Ted Brown start his new role as the Director of Transportation. Ted's background as a police officer in the city and then the Director of Safety and Security here at PCSC will serve us well in transportation. Safety is very important to us, and having two directors with that background in safety will put a greater emphasis on keeping our students safe. Ted has already hit the ground running, and I appreciate how he has helped Ward as well with the transition as the Director of Safety. As we have been transitioning through this period without a business manager, there have been a group of people who have really stepped up and filled in the gaps that I would like to acknowledge. Annette Hodges and Beth Mangus have gone way above and beyond their typical roles to keep us afloat. Robin Davidson, Erica McIntyre, Lisa Huff, and Brittany Sabinas have all pitched in as well. We have also had a lot of help from our former business manager, Candy Tinky, and we appreciate her contributions as well. With all these ladies' efforts, we are in a much better place than we may have been. I just want to thank all of them. Thanks also to Tri-Kappa for donations to the junior high and Martin's for donations to the high school. We always appreciate the support from the community. And then the next regular meeting falls on August 1st, but I am hoping that we can move that to August 8th because I will be with the other administrators visiting Adelaide Stevenson High School, which is kind of the home place of professional learning communities, to tour and ask questions. So I'm hoping that we can move that to August 8th at 7. Otherwise, I can drive back.
I think that's right.
If that would be better. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Rich? All right. 5.1, audience participation. Yes, go ahead. State your name, please, and address.
My name is Tara Blake. My address is 5416 Quince Road, Plymouth. And I'm here because I'm concerned. My husband received a call on, it was June 16th or 17th, from Mr. Welch telling him that our kids were being forced to go to Webster next year because of the redistricting. My husband called and spoke with Mr. I'm sorry.
Hayward.
Thank you. I didn't want to butcher it.
That's okay.
Back in April, and he assured my husband that because of the fact that we were providing transportation for our children, that we would not be affected.
I never said that. I said that we would try to make sure that we're trying to make sure all kids that were transferred in would get to be there, but I couldn't make any promises because of class sizes.
This is also a state where parents are allowed to choose.
It is.
And I'm
They get to
choosing from my
choose which,
children.
they do get to choose which school they go to, but school
Corporation.
corporation that they go to, but not which school within that corporation that they get to go to.
So why were my children chosen?
There are 5 chosen. They were chosen because they were out of district, and the class sizes with the students that were in district made the class sizes big.
I feel like my children were discriminated because they're twins. That got 2 kids out of that school and only affected one family.
There were 5 altogether. I mean, it wasn't just your.
I understand that, but you're getting rid of 2 kids with one family with us.
I would disagree. There was no intention because of your kids, because we had twins. I have twins myself, and that was not a factor, I can assure you.
So class size, what else for factors?
The class size is the biggest factor because if the in-district class sizes are really large, rather than us have to add another teacher, we needed to transfer out of district kids to a place where they would fit in class size wise. Otherwise, we overburden the teachers that are in those classrooms, and we just can't do that.
Why were the in-district families contacted when
All
their
families.
preference schools were not given?
The principals contacted every.
We were not contacted until we got the phone call telling us our children had to go to Webster.
But the determination wasn't made until you got the call. So we've been waiting on registration to roll in all this time and not making that decision before we had a better understanding of where the numbers were.
This just isn't right to uproot 2 children in the middle of their formative years because of class size. Yes, you might have 1 or 2 more kids, but my children are good kids for the most part. I wouldn't be here debating or pleading my case to you if they weren't.
I totally agree that they're good kids. I'm not saying anything about them. It has no factor, their discipline records or anything like that. It's not a factor. It's just the fact that the class sizes were too big and the out-of-district kids are the kids that get shifted.
I just don't think that's fair.
Sorry.
It's not fair at all. So I either send my kids to a school where they know no one, no adults, no other students that are in their grade because of your decision.
I'm sorry that that's the way it has to be.
I will more than likely be pulling my kids from this district.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you for the chance to speak. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Lord Pryor, PEA, item 3.7, consider revisions to administrative conditions. Just a point of information. I'm looking at the previous conditions where our Director of Safety and Security did not have administrative benefits. Our new one will, is that correct?
So Ted had administrative benefits.
Okay.
The people that were not, that did not have administrative benefits were Amy and the Director of Transportation. We did change that because we felt that all the directors, there was no reason to have one director get it while another director didn't get it. So we changed it so that all of them have that.
Okay. And just a thought for the school board as we talk about insurance. So administrative benefits. And the way the insurance is written is they get it fully paid for minus, I think it's $900, which means basically a $24,000+ benefit in health insurance alone. Would encourage the board as costs continue to go up with insurance and we're concerned with enrollments and budgeting, that might be an area where we look at rewriting. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Laura?
Mr. Duff.
Mike Delp, 3746 West Shore Drive. My wife and I are just curious as to, she saw you in the grocery store the other day, and
Oh, she did.
yeah, and she was talking to a friend in the produce, and once you made eye contact with her, you briskly turned around and went the
I'm
other way.
sorry.
And she was going to introduce you to who she was there with, and In your next to last sentence in your greeting, you said, I look forward to continuing to get to know you and the community, so.
So I was talking to another person,
She said you were by yourself.
you know, I was talking with someone. I did see her, but I didn't go over and talk to her. I apologize.
Well, you didn't have to talk to her, it's just, she noticed you just briskly turned around and went the other way.
I'm sorry that I was just in the grocery store trying to get stuff and I didn't mean to be rude.
That's okay, if you can live with that, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, 6.1, adjournment. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Thank you. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.